Good morning, people. It is now Thursday's devotion. I want to talk about that one thing that you may need to do that simplifies life completely, and that simply is to do what is right. In Genesis chapter 4, God is talking to Cain and saying, this one thing you need to get right, Cain. And he says to Cain in verse 6, he says to Cain after he's so fed, Cain is so fed up, he says, Cain, why are you angry? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you don't do what is right, sin is crouching or lurking at your door. It desires to have you, but you must master it. You see, people, there's an element of our responsibility that we're beginning to see come through here. We've spoken about knowledge being one thing, but doing what knowledge tells us is another thing. And this is all about doing something. Here, in the story of Cain, he's got to master that temptation that lurks at his door. There are some things God cannot do for you. You have to do them for yourself. And one of them is to take a hold and the grip on this thing called temptation. There's not one of us who's not tempted in some area of our lives, sometimes in many areas of our lives. And God says to us today, temptation is lurking at your door. You must master it. If you do what is right. Now that's what God says. Sounds simple, hey? Not always easy to do what is right, because I want to do what I want to do. I'm a human being. I have an ego. I have desires. I have wishes. I want to do what I want to do. And we have to today be able to contend in our mind the difference between what I want to do and that which is right. And I really hope that which is right will win over that which you want to do. We have a look at the Bible and we see all the great men, the men who were able to master temptation, people who were able to say, this one thing that I will do is get to grips with this thing called temptation. I will deal with it. Have a look at some of the great heroes we have. I love the story of Daniel, this young man doing what is right. There he is in a foreign land, and they want him to eat stuff and worship other gods, and he refuses to do that. There would have been a serious penalty for him had he not won favor with one of the senior men in the palace. But he did what was right. And doing what was right can sometimes, I have to tell you, get you into a little bit of trouble. Doing what is right can sometimes go in the face of the world and the things that are going on out there. The world is not favoring us believers necessarily doing what is right. So you have a look at, you see Daniel did what was right with the issue of food. Later on in his life, the issue of praying 3 times a day, he was told he couldn't do that. He said, that's not right. I must do what is right, and I will pray 3 times a day with my curtains open like I always have. I will not hide the fact that I am a believer in Jehovah. He did what was right. Pilate, however, didn't do what was right. He fell into the trap of doing what public opinion suggested he do, and he gave Jesus over to be crucified. He didn't do what was right. Zacchaeus, however, did do what was right. Zacchaeus, when he came to faith in Christ and he came to meet Jesus for who he was, Zacchaeus walked away a changed man, and he said, I now know the one thing I have to do. I have to do that which is right. And for him, you know what that was? He went back to his business. He took his money. He'd been a con artist. He gave back the money to the people he had conned. He repaid those who he had ripped off, a whole 3 or 4-fold back to them. He did what was right. Imagine if we did what was right in every situation. Imagine if the first question that came to our minds when we challenged with the temptation is, what is right here? Is this right or is this wrong? Because generally it's one or the other. And I hope and I pray that we will learn to do what is right. Now this is where we have to sometimes fight against that which is comfortable or that which might be convenient. But let's do what's right anyway, people. Go and have an awesome day.